Okay, guys, so I kind of wanted to share one of my favorite decks. Well, really, this whole deck started off when I first started playing Magic with a commander called Mael the Anima. This will do. So, Mael states, she's a Naya, and then for 6 mana. Ooh, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card with power 5 or greater from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Really good. Cheating out some big old stinky creatures. But unfortunately, because you only look at the top however many of your library, they're, more likely than not, you might not hit a creature. It was my surprise. It came to my surprise when I was in my local game store and saw this gem here, Atla Palani, 1 colorless mana more than Mael, but for 2 mana, so not 6, tap, make a 0/1 green egg creature token. And whenever an egg you control dies, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Really cool. You're always going to get a creature off this girl here. You just need your eggs to die. Let's get into the actual deck tech. I'm going to start off with lands, forests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 basic forests. 1, 2, 3 basic mountains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plains. We have the Temple Garden, Sacred Foundry, Stomping Ground, Firelit Thicket, a cool land. And my mana base, by the way, is not perfected for this deck, so keep that in mind. Clifftop Retreat, Temple of False God, Windswept Heath, Arid Mesa and Wooded Foothills, the classic 3, Terramorphic Expanse, Carabeti Courtyard, Sun Petal Grove, Overgrown Farmland, Rootbound Crag, Command Tower, Taiga, Savannah, Plateau. I can't afford the actual cards, cough cough, so I have proxies. Deal with it. Grove of the Burn Willows. Anybody want to gain some life? Yes, I do. Jetmir's Garden, High Market, Great Sack Outlet. Oh, and that's it. So High Market actually being one of the, wherever that stinky card went. Boom. Sack Outlet on a stick. Not many people run land destruction. So, I don't know about you, but that card looks pretty darn sweet. Let's get into the sorceries. You're a wizard, Harry. Alright. Soul's Majesty. This can pretty much be interchanged with the enchantment Greater Good, except you'd have to sacrifice a creature. But anyway, for 5 mana, draw cards equal to the power of target creature you control. I have not, this is a new addition to this, so I'm not really sure how I feel about it, but I also want to add stuff like Birthing Pod, and anyway, Kadama's Reach, Cultivate, Gamble, I love poker, Wrath of God, not religious sadly, but this card is actually sick because if you think about it, right? If you think about it, and I know it's kind of blurry down here, but if I have, bright light, if I have Atla and Skadoosh, 4 eggs, right? So now these 5 bad boys out on the battlefield, it is going to be way more useful for me to Wrath and destroy any threats my opponents have, because basically I instantly rebuild my board and they are left with nothing. Savine's Reclamation. Okay, so I think it's important to note, I do not run many permanents that are 3 or less, but there is one permanent in here that I almost not need, but it's a really great permanent to have on the battlefield, and that's Mirror Entity. We'll get into that a little bit later when I go over the creatures, but this is pretty much specifically for this card. I mean, we can get some mana dorks, we can get some enchantments, some artifacts that are really important with Savine's Reclamation. Overall, a really good card, but mainly for Mirror Entity. Primal Growth. Oh my god. If they made a ramp spell for Atla, this is it. Kicker, sacrifice a creature. Okay, I'm gonna sack my eggs. You immediately get an egg trigger, then the spell resolves. So if you don't kick it, you pay 3 and you put a land card, basically land card, onto the battlefield, untapped. So really this is almost like 2 mana. But if you kick it, right, so essentially for 1 mana, you get an egg trigger and 2 lands untapped, which is awesome. Okie dokie, and finally 3 visits, so that's to go grab those, basically color adjustments, right? You can grab any forest land, so really I can get any color with that. I can get, the green-white land, the green-red land, of course the green-green land. Greenland, sorry. Enchantments. So this one's awesome. Whenever a creature comes into play under your control, you may look at the top X cards of your library where X is that creature's power. So you get a Blightsteel on the field, 11 power. You're looking at the top 11 of your cards, and you just get to put 1 on top. I mean, it is just deck filtering. You get to choose 1 out of 11. Goblin Bombardment. Okay, this is going to be one of our main sack outlets. And I mean, I guess you could sack a creature and then deal 1 to an egg, but really you should be targeting your opponents or planeswalkers or what have you with this Rhythm of the Wild. This card is going to be used in an infinite combo with Atla. Specifically, you will give her the +1/+1 counter, and you will give everything else haste. I mean, unless you want to give stuff a +1/+1 counter. So I'm actually going to set this one aside because, yeah, Smothering Tithe. Will you be paying the 2? Whenever an opponent draws a card, you create a treasure. This will put a target on your back, but it's a really good enchantment card. Defense of the Heart. I really think that this should just be a green staple if you can afford it. For 4 mana, basically at your upkeep, if one of your opponents controls 3 or more creatures, you just go get 2 creatures from your deck and put them on the field. And in this deck, that can be, I mean, realistically, if you wanted, you could run Kiki and Felidar in your deck, and this is a game winner. So, I mean, I don't play it like that. Maybe I should. I don't know. Ghostly Prison, some pillow forwarding. Impact Tremors, also part of the Infinite Combo, but a really good card to have. R Shards, this card's nuts. If you have Atla on the field and you have R Shards, tap, make an egg, boom, R Shards trigger. Sack the egg, something else comes in, boom, R Shards trigger. You control the board with this. And this, I love this card. 2 mana, I mean, a 2 mana enchantment, first of all, cool as crap. But let's read it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, populate. Okay, I'll make a token copy of my egg. The token created this way gains haste, sacrifice it. So even if you don't have a sack outlet, you make an egg, and it dies, and you get an egg trigger. Boom. Those are our enchantments. The artifacts. Indiana Jones. Do. All right. Claw of Gix, basically a free sack outlet. I mean, free in terms of CMC. You have to pay 1 to sack a permanent, but you gain a life, so that's cool. Ashnod's Altar. I don't have, what is it, Phyrexian Altar? The one that gives mana, like colored mana when you sack. I don't have it in here, but that will be an addition in the near future. Ashnod's Altar, pay 0, sack a creature, get 2 mana. I mean, come on. Skull Clamp. Pretty much you can kill your eggs and draw 2 cards. We obviously have some mana rocks. There are going to be more in here. Wow, voice crack, nice. Lightning Greaves, give your commander some protection. Arcane Signet. I mean, that's just a commander's table. Scroll Rack. Some people have told me to remove this card from the deck list. I beg to differ. I like this card because if I have some big stompies in my hand that I can't pay for in terms of mana, like if I have 6 mana and I have an 8 mana card in my hand, I can have an egg trigger happen and in response activate Scroll Rack and put that card on top and know what I'm going to hit creature-wise. Swiftfoot Boots, basically less complicated. Lightning Greaves, Mimic Vat. I've not had a chance to use this, but it seems pretty cool. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you may exile that card, and basically for 3, you get to make another copy of it. Another Talisman, Sensei's Divining Top. Yeah, I mean, if you have more than 1 creature in your top 3, you get to choose. If you need lands, you get to look at them. 1 mana, I mean, come on. Another Talisman, a card that should be banned. This is awesome. Sack a creature. Blasting Station deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So, sack a creature. It sacks itself. Right? Boom. Tap Blasting Station. Kill an egg when you sack it. Deal 1 to a player. A creature comes into play. Boink. We are back. We are live. All right. And finally, Maskwood Nexus. This is just OP. This is just OP. Creatures you control are every creature type. This is just nuts. I mean, everything's an egg. Every creature that enters is an egg. Onto the instance. Beast Within. Targeted removal. You need it. Path to Exile. Targeted removal. Uh-oh. Look at what it is. More targeted removal. Noxious Revival. Again, you can use this to grab certain things. I always use it for 1 card, though, if it's in there. Shield of Velis. So how I use this is if somebody... So let's say I have Atla, right? I have Atla. I have a ton of nice creatures on the field. None of them have indestructible, of course. Why would they? And somebody board wipes. Well, even though I don't have any eggs, a boom, a 1 mana. Now I do. I have eggs. And I will get egg triggers. Corrosive Grip, targeted removal that you can't even respond to. Enlightened Tutor gold bordered because my local LGS scammed me and made me trade in my white bordered one, telling me this gold bordered was similar value anyway. Artifact or enchantment card on the top. I will use this usually for like R shards or a sack outlet, or if I have all the other cards for the combo, I will use it to search up this Rhythm of the Wild that I placed over here. Teferi's Protection. I mean, if you can get it, get it. Worldly Tutor, I get to decide what I'm putting on the field. Chaos Warp, more targeted removal. Eladamri's Call. I mean, it's just kind of nuts. And finally, Congregation at Dawn. So you get 3 egg triggers. I get to decide what 3 creatures they are. Also, things that I've had in here at some point are things like Altar of the Bone, which is also used as a sack outlet. So I'm pretty sure Altar of the Bone is a casting cost, so you actually get to just go and kind of... You should look up the card. It's awesome. This thick pile, what could it be? Waboosh. It's creatures. Of course it is. I took this guy out. I just put him in yesterday. I run him sometimes. It's cool because it's Naya and you pay 1 and you get Naya. So, I mean, whatever. Esper Sentinel, will you be paying for Esper Sentinel? For draws, obviously. Harmonic Prodigy, waboosh. If an ability of a shaman or wizard you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. 1 egg gets you 2 pops, 2 creatures in there. Eternal Witness, Graveyard Recursion. I love Graveyard Recursion. And ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. Mirror Entity. We're going to set this guy aside for a moment. We'll get back to him. Karmic Guide. There's a cool little side combo with this, but basically just, if anything does actually get into my graveyard, I'll bring it back. Aurelia, the War Leader, an additional combat step. One of the cards that I switch out often. Gisela, you take double, I take half. Seedworm Muse, God, okay, this card is so annoying to deal with in this deck. I mean, during each player's untap step, I untap as well, so I just get to make eggs as long as I have 2 mana, which, I mean, come on. Elish Norn, because I'm that guy. Wow, do we even need to talk about this? I mean, do we? Actually, oddly enough, mainly, I mean, the Annihilator 4 is annoying, but I actually use it for the graveyard shuffling ability. By the way, if you can't read this, this is Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. Dragonlord Jamoka. I'm also on the way right now. I have ordered. It is not here yet, but I do have a Grand Abolisher coming on the way. So anyway, your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Flying Lifelink, it can't be countered. And I mean, just look at that. It's beautiful. Adeker Valkyrie. Whenever target creature other than this creature dies this turn, return to the battlefield under my control. Pretty sure you can target opponent's creatures. Correct me if I'm wrong. Blightsteel. Again, mainly for the shuffle effect. However, the infect is beneficial at times. I don't like to rely on it, but Ulamog, again, graveyard shuffle, but I mean the Annihilator 4, and also just, oh God, look at that. Academy Rector. This is part of the infinite combo, so watch out. Basically get an enchantment in for free. Worm Coil Engine, this card's definitely growing on me. I saw it in a lot of Mael deck techs because it has greater than 6 power, but it's just a great card. Abyss and Angel of Hope, all my stuff's indestructible. Seems really good, is not really good unless you have a sack outlet. Because basically you won't be able to let your eggs die. So unless you have a board state, but I mean, come on, it's, old Gnawbone, basically like, if you kill Atla, like I'm gonna have mana to recast her just from this, like alone, let alone other creatures. Platinum Empyrean has saved my booty hole more times than I can count. My life total cannot change. Sun Titan, again, graveyard recursion. Summoner's Egg, so this lets me get stuff out of my hand. You can also run stuff like Elvish Piper or Monster Manual. I don't know, I just like this because nobody expects it. And also, even though it's an artifact creature, does count as an egg trigger when you die via rulings. And finally, the man, the myth, the legend, Kiki Jiki, which is also going on this cool little side combo here. So here's the little side combo. So with Seaborn Muse, it's actually a lot more annoying, but basically, Karmic Guide enters. Okay, I'm going to return blah, 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 that thing to the battlefield, whatever. When it gets to your upkeep, so untap, right? All these guys on tap. Upkeep. Okay, in response to my upkeep, I'm going to tap Attica Valkyrie and choose Karmic Guide. Okay, well, that doesn't do anything yet, sure. Kiki Jiki, Badoom, I will also target Karmic Guide. So when Kiki targets Karmic Guide, I get to bring something back. Boom, onto the battlefield. And then I'm not going to pay the echo cost, so it'll sacrifice itself. But wait. Attica Valkyrie says whenever another target creature dies this turn, returns to the battlefield. Oh, well, pow. And it's back. So that's cool. It's really, really a cool little loop here. If you get 3 egg triggers in a row and you want to bring some more stuff back, 1, 2, 3, uno, dos, tres, Spanish lesson for the day. All right. So those are all the creatures. Where do we get the infinite combo? What's our win con here? Well, if you're not fortunate enough to be able to absolutely destroy your opponents with sheer power, okay, took me a whole minute to find dice. If you're not able to destroy your opponents with absolute sheer power, boom, bam, bam, boop, boop, and gading, what you might be able to do, you have Rhythm of the Wild on turn 3. And Atla enters on turn 4, let's say. You choose to put the +1/+1 counter on on Atla from Rhythm of the Wild's Riot trigger. Then, if Mirror Entity enters the battlefield and resolves, you win. That's pretty much it. Unless opponents have some stupid, I don't know, something you can't respond to, or unless your graveyard shufflers are all dead. So what you do is you activate Mirror Entity for 0, a million, trillion, I don't know, whatever number you want times. And as long as Atla has the +1/+1 trigger on it, even if an opponent responds, you can just say, okay, well, I'm going to respond to what you're doing by activating Mirror Entity for a quadrillion times again for 0. So what this will do is this will make all your creatures 0/0/0/0s and gain all creature types. So Mirror Entity will actually die. Atla will become a 0/0 temporarily, but become a 1/1 because of this ability. Or because of the counter, I mean. So Mirror Entity will die, and you'll get an egg trigger. And off your egg trigger, another creature will enter. But because you've stacked it so many times, with those 100 quadrillion, this creature will die. And this creature will come in, this creature will die, this creature will come in, this creature will die. And you're like, well, you're going to run out of creatures. Well, if you're smart and you haven't, let your opponents exile anything, when this thing comes in and dies, it hits the graveyard, your whole graveyard shuffles back in, and then you just keep repeating the process until boom, Academy Rector comes in. And when it is put into a graveyard from play, you may exile it. So you do. You say, bye Academy Rector, bye old stinky grandma, and boom, you grab Impact Tremors. Now this can be replaced with Perforos also. Perforos, obviously the better, kills your opponents twice as fast, whatever. So Impact Tremors comes in, and you just keep cycling all your creatures. And they, eventually your opponents die. So I did pick up this cool little binder to show you guys some cards that I sometimes switch out. So I'm just going to flip through it. I'm not really going to say anything. You guys can kind of read the names, hopefully. Is that, like, clear? Not really. This one is, I don't know. But yeah. These are just some things that you can include if you want. That card's really good, makes eggs. But yeah. Just, if you guys have any other recommendations, go ahead. Like, there's obviously Protean Haunt, Crater Hoof. I mean, you can make recommendations on recommendations on recommendations. Just pick a big, stupid thing that's red, green, or white and has cool abilities, and you've suddenly made yourself an Atla deck. You can also do Dragon Tribal, like a Tarka, Xenagos, like the God around, anything. It's really up to you. But yeah, that is my deck tech on Atla.